Hi, and welcome back. We've been looking at a clock, a key, and a net, 3 gifts given to the bride of Christ at her midnight hour in age-to-age timekeeping, and that time is happening now. In this video, I want to make important connections between the plague of death at midnight in Exodus 12 and the 4th letter to the angel of the church of Thyatira in Revelation 2. Now, to set the scene, we have to revisit a very familiar story. The children of Israel are being held as slaves under Pharaoh's self-enriching government, and Pharaoh's people have experienced 9 irritating plagues, but Pharaoh refuses to let God's people go. So in Exodus 11, we read about a plan for yet another plague. At midnight, I will go throughout Egypt. And then in Exodus 12, the plan is implemented. At midnight, the Lord struck down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, and from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on the throne to the firstborn of the prisoner who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the livestock. Okay, so this 3,400-year-old story is told in micro 24-hour timekeeping, but it symbolizes a larger macro story of the whole human race enslaved by a lesser government of darkness that operates in opposition to God's greater government of light, and the lesser government of darkness will not let God's people go. This larger story takes place throughout the entirety of an 8th day of temporal timekeeping. The story is still being written because it is the story of us. Now, let's fast forward to the revelation of John 2,000 years ago. In Revelation 2, the risen Christ writes the following words to the angel of the church of Thyatira, dictated to John in a vision. I have this against you. You tolerate that woman Jezebel, who calls herself a prophet, but is deceiving people. I gave her time to repent, but she refuses to do so. Beware, I am throwing her, Jezebel, on a bed, and those who commit adultery with her I am throwing into great distress, unless they repent of her doings. Now the words, I gave her time to repent, reflect the time given to Pharaoh to repent. And those who commit adultery with her I am throwing into great distress, reflect the distress of the many plagues Pharaoh and his people endured prior to the plague of death. And then we read these stinging words in the 4th letter. And I will strike her children dead. These words are a time clue. They reflect the words, at midnight, the Lord struck down the firstborn. Notice that it isn't Pharaoh who is struck down. It's Pharaoh's firstborn. And it isn't Jezebel who is struck down. It's Jezebel's children. Systems of oppression and deception cannot survive if they are not passed down to future generations of children who learn to model them. Death prevents future modeling. Okay, so these are heavy topics, but let's make something abundantly clear. The risen Christ is not going to swoop down from a heavenly throne and kill children, any more than the God of Israel literally killed all the firstborn in Pharaoh's government 3,000 years ago. These sacred writings symbolically point to deep spiritual truths. The dire consequences of death when people are trapped within a system of a lesser government of darkness, one that operates in opposition to God's greater government of light and life and will not let God's people go. So here we are. It's midnight in age-to-age timekeeping, and the bride of Christ is currently waking up to the fact that she has been tolerating the spiritual presence of Jezebel, a prophetess who is lying on a bed with the deep things of Satan. Now, who is this Jezebel that the bride is tolerating? Might she be the shadow side of the bride of Christ, a false bride masquerading as a true bride? If so, if she is ever to become a true bride worthy of Christ, then she must stop committing adultery by lying on a bed with a false version of herself. She must part ways with the deep things of Satan. Now, at midnight, the bride of Christ has a lot of work to do. She must embark on her own great exodus, an exodus out of deception, out of being trapped. She must be willing to repent of her own entanglement with the voice of deception before she will ever be trusted to lead the way out of deception for the whole of humanity. During her great exodus out from her own bondage to a lesser government, the bride of Christ will need to silence and bind the lesser voice of temporal time that has deceived her. And then she must throw the lesser voice, who is the ancient serpent, the devil, and the Satan, into the abyss of yesterday, so that the voice of deception and oppression can never be learned by future generations of children. The process will be a long one. It is described in Revelation chapter 20. The fourth letter continues, "To the rest of you in Thyatira who do not hold to the teachings of Jezebel, who have not learned what some call the deep things of Satan, to you I say, I do not lay on you any other burden. Only hold fast to what you have until I come." And then Christ continues by saying, "To the one who conquers, I will also give the morning star." And look, here we are. We're looking at, and we've been given this gift of an age-to-age clock that not only identifies the midnight hour, but it also reveals the time of the morning star. So let anyone who has an ear listen to what the Spirit is saying to the churches. Next up, macro time watchfulness. It's going to be the final video in this Midnight Hour series. Thanks for hanging out with me.